Hello, writers. We are on session 4 of our memoir unit. And today, our objective is we are going to learn how to write powerfully through inspiration by reading or listening to other literature. And when we think about literature, it's any piece of written work. We're going to start off with this quote from Franz Kafka. He once wrote that literature can be an ice axe to break the frozen sea within us. Great metaphor. He compares literature to this ice axe. And what it allows us to do is to open our minds to some of the themes or ideas that we have going on in our minds and allowing us to write from them. So, how do we do that? Well, as I mentioned, we are going to use literature as an inspiration, and you are not going to summarize what you have read or listened to. You're going to write from it. So, what are the steps in order to do this? We're going to start with a text, and oftentimes it should be a text that you're familiar with, and you should reread it because after you reread the text, you should be able to gather some ideas and begin writing. So let's take a look at an example from a text by Jacqueline Woodson, and it comes from Notebooks of Melanin Sun, and the excerpt is entitled Alone. Some days I wear alone like a coat, like a hood draping from my head that first warm day of spring, like socks bunching up inside my sneakers, like that. Alone is how I walk some days with my hands shoved deep in my pockets, with my head down, walking against the day, into it, then out again. Alone is the taste in my mouth some mornings, like morning breath, like hunger. It's lumpy oatmeal for breakfast when Mama doesn't have time to cook, and I still don't know how much oatmeal and water and milk will make it all right.
Using Woodson's Alone and using that as an inspiration to write from, it sparked an idea of the time period that we are currently in, which is trying to teach from home and learn from home and what that means. So how could I write my thoughts down onto the paper? So I could start something like this. Each day begins around 8 a.m. And remember, this is just a draft. So the best thing to do when drafting is just to get your thoughts down on paper. There's plenty of time later to go back and revise, change words around, and then, even add more ideas. So just let the ideas flow. What else do I want to say? It's different this time. No more driving in my car. No more empty classroom. Waiting for students to arrive. And sorry, my dog is here. Instead of the 8:30 bell, when the volume gradually gets louder with student voices. I'm in my living room alone. I wait for students. To read the lessons and then here and there. Let me put a comma there. The ding of a text or a chime from my email. So I could go on and keep reading and keep writing, but for now, I think this is a good start. So you can see now that I did not summarize Woodson's Alone, but rather I loved the concept of that idea of being alone and what that meant to me. And so for you, of course, your idea of alone could be different than mine. And so what does that concept look like for you?
So now it's your turn. We are going to listen to a passage from Patricia McLaughlin's novel Journey. And when I finish reading, you're going to pick up your pencil and write off of or from the story. To give you some context, just prior to this passage, Grandma has just brought a bowl of soup and a photo album to her grandson, whose name is Journey, and they are looking through the pictures together. In the picture, the girl who was my mama sat behind a table, her face in her hands, looking far off in the distance. All around her were people laughing, talking. Lancy, Mama's sister, made a face at the camera. Uncle Miner, his hair all sun-bleached, was caught by the camera taking a handful of cookies. In the background, a dog leaped into the air to grab a ball, his ears floating out as if uplifted and helped there by the wind. But my mother looked silent and unhearing. "It's a nice picture," I said, except for Mama. "It must have been the camera," I said after a moment. Grandma sighed and took my hand. "No, it wasn't the camera, Journey. It was your mama. Your mama always wished to be somewhere else." "Well, now she is," I said. After a while, Grandma got up and left the room. I sat there for a long time staring at Mama's picture as if I could will her to turn and talk to the person next to her. The expression on Mama's face was one I knew, one I remembered. Somewhere else, I am very little, 5 or 6, and in overalls and new yellow rubber boots. I follow Mama across the meadow. It has rained and everything is washed away and shiny. The sky is clear. As I walk, my feet make squashing sounds. When I try to catch up with Mama, I fall into the brook. I am not afraid, but when I look up, Mama has walked away. Arms pick me up, someone else's arms. Someone else takes off my boots and pours out the water. My grandfather. I am angry. It's not my grandfather I want. It is Mama. But Mama is far ahead and she doesn't look back. She is somewhere else. So now this is where you are going to write from the text. You are going to write your thoughts. What did that text make you think, feel, or remember? Have you experienced a similar event? So what I want you to do is pause this video and write down some thoughts. And when you're ready, hit play again and we'll continue. Okay, so this is your work for today. Take a look at this anchor chart that I have here for you. When we're reading another author's text, writers are often inspired by 3 things. The actual topic that the writer writes about. So for example, in 11, that red sweater. Number 2, you could be inspired by themes or issues that the writer puts forth. So for example, in today's example of Alone, that might be something that has prompted some ideas in your head. And then the last is somewhere else, a word, phrase, or image that the author uses that reminds you of something. So I want you to take something that you were familiar with. So we've read quite a few things this year in writing class, and I know you've also read a lot in reading. So I have a short list here for you to try. So you could try any of these texts. 11, Quietly Struggling, Journey, Alone, Fly Away Home, Home of the Brave, the Pan U Football Club videos, and then any book club books that you could have been reading this year. And then also, of course, your independent reading, something that you picked up in the media center, say, for example. And so for your assignment this week, you are going to write one paragraph based upon inspiration from one of those books or texts that you have read this year. And that is what you are going to turn into your homeroom teacher. Okay, so if you have any questions, be sure to reach out to your homeroom teacher or to me, and we will try to get back to you as soon as possible. And good luck with your writing today. Writers write.